What do you do when the life you built shatters in a single moment? For Daniel Harper, the answer wasn't a shout or a fight, it was silence. Silence, so heavy it could choke a man. He stood in the doorway of his own bedroom, the faint glow of a street lamp spilling through the blinds, painting stripes across the tangled sheets. There, in the bed he'd shared with Emily for 12 years, she lay curled against a stranger. A man whose face Daniel didn't know, whose breath rose and fell in a rhythm that mocked everything Daniel thought he understood about love. The clock on the nightstand read 2:17 a.m. Daniel had come home early from a late shift at the warehouse, his hands still rough from lifting crates, his back aching from the grind. He'd wanted nothing more than to slip into bed beside his wife, to feel the warmth of her presence after a long day. Instead, he found thesacine that carved a hollow in his chest. The stranger's clothes were strewn across the floor, a leather jacket, a pair of jeans, a white shirt crumpled like an afterthought. Daniel's eyes lingered on them, his mind racing, but his body frozen. He could wake them. He could demand answers. He could let the rage bubbling inside him erupt. But what would that solve? Instead, he moved like a ghost. His boots made no sound on the hardwood as he gathered the stranger's clothes, folding them neatly over his arm as if they were his own. Emily stirred slightly, her dark hair spilling over the pillow, but she didn't wake. The stranger didn't either. Daniel's heart pounded, each beat a question he couldn't answer. Who was this man? How long had this been happening? Why hadn't he seen it coming? But louder than all those questions was a single, stubborn instinct. Don't break. Not here. Not now. He turned and walked out, closing the bedroom door with a soft click. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak, every whisper of doubt. Downstairs, he grabbed his keys from the kitchen counter, the stranger's clothes still tucked under his arm. He didn't know why he took them. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was control. Maybe it was just something to hold onto as his world unraveled. The cool night air hit him as he stepped outside, the clothes now a weight in his hands. He tossed them into the back seat of his truck and drove, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and red. Daniel didn't have a destination. He just needed to move. The streets of Portland were nearly empty at this hour, the Willamette River glinting under the moonlight as he crossed the bridge. His mind replayed the past 12 years. The day he met Emily at a friend's barbecue, her laugh bright enough to drown out the world. Their wedding in a small park, her white dress catching the breeze. The late-night talks about dreams they'd chased together. They'd wanted a family, a home, a life. But somewhere along the way, the cracks had formed. Missed dinners, quiet arguments, the slow drift of two people too tired to hold on. He hadn't noticed how wide those cracks had grown until now. He pulled into a diner parking lot, the neon sign flickering open 24 hours. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and grease, and a waitress with tired eyes poured him a cup without asking. He sat in a corner booth, the stranger's clothes beside him like a silent passenger. What now? He could go back, confront her, demand the truth. But the thought of her excuses, her tears, or worse, her indifference made his stomach turn. He sipped the coffee, its bitterness grounding him, and stared out the window at the empty lot. That's when he saw her, Lila, the waitress from earlier, now on her break, sitting on a bench outside. She was older, maybe in her 50s, with gray streaks in her hair and a face that carried stories of its own. She lit a cigarette, the glow casting shadows on her weathered skin. Something about her felt familiar, like she'd seen the same kind of pain Daniel was drowning in. He didn't know why, but he grabbed the clothes and walked outside. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, gesturing to the bench. Lila shrugged, exhaling smoke. "Free country." He sat, the clothes in his lap, and for a moment they just existed in the quiet. Then she spoke, her voice rough but kind. Rough night. Daniel laughed a hollow sound. You could say that. He hesitated, then told her. Not everything, just enough. The bedroom, the stranger, the clothes. He didn't know why he was telling a stranger this, but the words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. Lila listened, nodding slowly. When he finished, she flicked her cigarette to the ground and crushed it under her heel. You know, she said, I did something like that once. Found my husband with someone else. Didn't take his clothes, though. I took his car keys and drove his prized Mustang into a lake. She chuckled, but her eyes were distant. Felt good for about 5 minutes, then just felt empty. Daniel stared at her, the twist of her story catching him off guard. You regret it? Sometimes, she said, not because of him deserved it, but because I let his betrayal turn me into someone I didn't like. You got those clothes, kid. What are you going to do with them? He didn't have an answer. They sat in silence until Lila's break ended, and she left him with a pat on the shoulder and a quiet, you'll figure it out. Back in the diner, Daniel ordered another coffee, his mind turning over her words. He thought about Emily, about the life they'd built, about the stranger who'd torn apart. But more than that, he thought about himself. Who was he now? The man who'd walked out with a stranger's clothes, or the man who'd loved Emily enough to build a life with her? By dawn, he'd made a decision. He drove to a park near their house, a place where he and Emily used to walk on Sundays. He left the clothes on a bench, neatly folded, as if they belonged to someone who might come looking. Then he drove home. Emily was awake when he walked in, her eyes red, her voice trembling as she tried to explain. The stranger was gone. Daniel didn't ask where. I don't know why, she said, tears streaming. I'm so sorry, Dan. I don't know what happened to us. He looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman he loved, but also someone flawed, human, broken. Like him. I don't know either, he said finally, but I'm not running from it. They talked for hours, not just about that night, but about everything at distance, the dreams they'd let slip, the work it would take to rebuild. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was messy, uncertain, painful, but it was honest. Daniel didn't forgive her right away, and he didn't know if he ever would completely. But he chose to stay, to face the wreckage and see what could be salvaged. In the days that followed, he thought about Lila, about her Mustang sinking into the lake, about the emptiness she'd described. He didn't want that. He wanted something real, even if it hurt. The clothes on the bench were his way of letting go of Emily, but of the impulse to destroy what was left of them. Sometimes, he realized, walking away isn't about leaving. It's about choosing what you carry with you.